Hello again. Ray Franz is concluding his chapter 1 in Crisis of Conscience, and the chapter is entitled Price of Conscience. He's just dealt with the examples of Hans Kung, the Catholic theologian, Desmond Ford, the Adventist theologian, and Ed Dunlap, the former registrar of Gilead for the Jehovah's Witnesses, making the point that they're all examples of people who've been persecuted for dissenting, daring to dissent. And the paragraph he concludes with is this. Thus, the religious organization that for many has been a symbol of extreme authoritarianism, that is the Roman Catholic Church, showed the greatest degree of tolerance toward its dissident instructor. The organization that has taken particular pride in its fight for freedom of conscience showed the least. So that's the end of the last segment. Now he says, herein lies a paradox. Despite their intense activity in door-to-door witnessing, most people actually know little about Jehovah's Witnesses, aside from their position on certain issues of conscience. They have heard of their uncompromising stand in refusing to accept blood transfusions, their refusal to salute any flag or similar emblem, their firm objection to performance of military service, their opposition to participation in any political activity or function. Those familiar with legal cases know that they have taken some 50 cases to the Supreme Court of the United States in defense of their freedom of conscience, including their right to carry their message to people of other beliefs, even in the face of considerable opposition and objections. In lands where constitutional liberties protect them, they are free to exercise such rights without hindrance. In other countries, they have experienced severe persecution, arrests, jailing, mobbings, beatings, and official bans prohibiting their literature and preaching.
How then is it the case that today any person among their membership who voices a personal difference of viewpoint as to the teachings of the organization is almost certain to face judicial proceedings, and unless willing to retract, is liable for disfellowshipment? How do those carrying out those proceedings rationalize the apparent contradiction in position? Paralleling this is the question of whether endurance of severe persecution and physical mistreatment at the hand of opposers is of itself necessarily evidence of belief in the vital importance of staying true to conscience, or whether it can simply be the result of concern to adhere to an organization's teachings and standards, violation of which is known to bring severe disciplinary action.
Some may say that the issue is really not as simple as it is here presented, that there are other crucial matters involved. What of the need for religious unity and order? What of the need for protection against those who spread false, divisive, and pernicious teachings? What of the need for proper respect for authority? To ignore those factors would admittedly show an extreme, blindly unbalanced attitude. Who can challenge the fact that freedom, misused, can lead to irresponsibility, disorder, and can end in confusion, even anarchy? Patience and tolerance, likewise, can become nothing more than an excuse for indecision, non-action, a lowering of all standards. Even love can become mere sentimentality, misguided emotion that neglects to do what is really needed, with cruel consequences. All this is true, and is what those focus on who would impose restraints on personal conscience through religious authority.
What, however, is the effect when spiritual guidance becomes mental domination, even spiritual tyranny? What happens when the desirable qualities of unity and order are substituted by demands for institutionalized conformity and by legalistic regimentation? What results when proper respect for authority is converted into servility, unquestioning submission, and abandonment of personal responsibility before God to make decisions based on individual conscience? Those questions must be considered if the issue is not to be distorted and misrepresented. What follows in this book illustrates in a very graphic way the effect these things have on human relationships. The unusual positions and actions persons will take who see only one side of the issue, the extremes to which they will go to uphold that side.
Perhaps the greatest value in seeing this is, I feel, that it can help us understand more clearly what the real issues were in the days of Jesus Christ and his apostles, and why and how a tragic deviation from their teachings and example came so subtly with such relative ease in so brief a span of time. Those who are of other religious affiliations and who may be quick to judge Jehovah's Witnesses would do well to ask first about themselves, about their own religious affiliation in the light of the issues involved, the basic attitudes that underlie the positions described and the actions taken.
To search out the answers to the questions raised requires going beyond the individuals affected into the inner structure of a distinctive religious organization, into its system of teaching and control, discovering how the men who direct it arrive at their decisions and policies, and to some extent investigating its past history and origins. Hopefully, the lessons learned can aid in uncovering the root causes of religious turmoil and the point to what is needed if persons trying to get genuine followers of God. That doesn't sound right. I've got to reread that. Sorry. Hopefully, the lessons learned can aid in uncovering the root causes of religious turmoil and point to what is needed if persons trying to be genuine followers of God's Son are to enjoy peace and brotherly unity. That was better the second time.
Yeah. So I definitely agree with his basic point. That is, that unity can't be used as an excuse for demanding absolute uncritical submission and unconditional loyalty, as it is now even more emphatically than it was when you were a kid.
Yeah, because you're not training people's consciences.
Yeah.
You're dictating what their conscience should be.
And you made a point about the fact that when you were a young Jehovah's Witness and even temporary pioneering, you could only see one viewpoint.
So I can remember in school, I was taking a course called Man and Society, and when issues came up that were obviously against the beliefs of witnesses, I wasn't able to even contemplate or think about the reasons why someone might hold a different position, because that was compromise.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it was compromise. So I was not able to function well in that class. I do recall that.
Yeah, and that's of course because you were in a rush before 1975. I was in a rush. We were always trying to get to our point and our good news, and that demanded really that we not listen to anybody else.
Yeah, so you never become a good listener or even a good debater. Like, you can't argue it well.
No, but I have to say that I disagree with Ray's point about, well, other people outside Jehovah's Witnesses need to seriously think about this. Well, it is true, some do. But if you remember what Ray says in Search of Christian Freedom, he emphasizes the fact that as early as Ignatius, around the year 105, 110 AD, right after the apostles are dead, the bishop office starts to be promoted by Ignatius. Yeah. And I don't think Ray has done enough in-depth thinking about that period to realize that that did not happen what he imagines. There was not religious abuse happening as soon as the apostles died.
Yeah, I think he reads the early church fathers with that in the back of his head, maybe from his experience in the witnesses, and then sort of thinks, this is what they're doing. They're pressuring the people.
Demanding submission.
Yeah.
But the truth is, there was no power even in the office of the bishop for centuries to suppress dissidents. And the local power the bishops had, they were They were not diocesan in the sense that a lot of Anglicans and Catholics and Orthodox people think of the power of a bishop today. It's over a wide swath of disciples in a region, not just in a city,
under
a
some
local.
kind of central authority.
That's right.
No.
So there was no mechanism for centuries after Ignatius, even around 100. There was no mechanism in place anywhere in the Christian world to enforce the kind of unquestioning authority and tyranny over men's minds that you experience when you're a Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We've got a couple of links here. Can you read them? Because
the first one is, why must JWs ignore Ignatius of Antioch? Because he completely wrecks their a great apostasy fiction.
yeah.
And the playlist, why JW org will fall and the church will stand.
Good. See you next time.